This is 17 News with continuing coronavirus coverage.
Good afternoon and thanks for joining us for 17 News at noon. I'm Vanessa Dillon. We begin with the latest numbers on the coronavirus outbreak here in Kern County. Kern Public Health confirmed 32 new cases of COVID-19 this morning, and that brings the total to 1,296. The number still stands at 15 people dead, and 9 of those deaths are from the Kingston Healthcare Facility. 759 people have recovered from the virus, and more than 10,000 tests have come back negative. More than 2,500 tests are pending, and remember, it takes more time to confirm a negative test than a positive one. Public Health has also broken down the cases by zip code. The areas primarily impacted by the spread include Lamont Arvin and Bakersfield zip codes 93313 and 93307. This afternoon, now new developments in the outbreak that has hit a local nursing home especially hard. Now 9 of the county's COVID-19 deaths have ties to Kingston Healthcare Center. And those 9 residents who lived at the Kingston Healthcare Center died from coronavirus. That's over half of our county's total. Now, last week we broke the news that 41 people had tested positive. Now 108 residents and staff members at Kingston Healthcare Center have tested positive for the virus. And the California Department of Public Health has sent nearly 40 healthcare workers to help with the shortage. Even before COVID-19 struck the Kingston Healthcare facility, the place had a reputation for poor patient care. The 184-bed facility was last inspected in November, and the federal report found 39 health deficiencies from the home, and the national average is 8. Local health officials say they're in the process of testing everyone in the facility. Last week, we broke the story of the COVID outbreak at Kingston Healthcare. For our complete coverage, just go to our website, KGET.com, and use the search word Kingston. California is the first state in the nation moving to send mail-in ballots to every registered voter for the November election. Governor Gavin Newsom signed an executive order Friday allowing every voter in California to receive a mail-in ballot, whether they're signed up to vote by mail or not. The order states each voter will receive their ballot 29 days before the election. Those who are military and overseas will receive ballots 45 days out. And Newsom says this will allow people living in concentrated areas to still vote during the COVID-19 pandemic. And to be clear, state leaders say mail-in ballots are not the only option for voters, but it'll be available for those who feel that voting in person puts their health at risk. 75% of the state already receives automatic vote-by-mail ballots, and President Trump says he's against vote-by-mail because he thinks it would lead to fraud. Bakersfield police are investigating 2 different incidents that left 3 people with stab wounds and 1 person dead. Police say the incidents were not related, but the 3 victims went to Memorial Hospital on 34th Street at around 9:30 last night for treatment. They showed up at the same time, and BPD says one of the victims was stabbed near the corner of Water Street and North Kern, and that man was moved from Memorial to Kern Medical, where he died. Kern County Sheriff's Office deputies are now investigating. Meanwhile, the 2 other people who were stabbed in an unrelated incident are expected to survive. Police say the 2 were wounded in some sort of fight on Union Avenue, not far from Memorial Hospital. At one point, Memorial Hospital was temporarily placed on lockdown because police say it wasn't immediately known if the 3 total victims were stabbed at the hospital. That lockdown has since been lifted. Both stabbings are under investigation. Bakersfield police are investigating a stabbing overnight that left 1 man wounded as well. This happened at the Villa Inn on Union Avenue, just north of Brundage Lane, just after 5 o'clock this morning. The victim was taken to the hospital with moderate to major injuries, and police have not released any information about a possible subject. All right, we're back with more news and your forecast after the break. Welcome back. In your 17 Health Watch, a new study is offering details on American children who are severely sickened with the coronavirus. Researchers studied the case of 48 children with COVID-19 who were admitted to the pediatric intensive care units in 14 hospitals in the U.S. And over half were boys, and the vast majority of the patients had pre-existing medical conditions. Nearly 75% presented with respiratory symptoms, and 18 kids had to be placed on ventilators. Nearly a quarter had multi-organ failure, and 2 children had died. The FDA has approved the new use of a type of test to detect the coronavirus with results in minutes. The agency issued the emergency use authorization for the antigen test over the weekend, and the test is able to rapidly detect fragments in virus proteins in samples collected from nasal swabs. Current diagnostic tests look for the genetic material of the virus and can take hours for results, but those corporations say its antigen tests can deliver results in just 15 minutes.
And good afternoon. Hope you had a great Mother's Day weekend. Temperatures were warm in the mid-90s. Today, guess what? We're going to cool down, and we're going to keep it that way. Let's take a look at the temperature right now. 79 degrees for Bakersfield. Northwest wind at 8 miles per hour, so a nice start to the afternoon. And as we take a look at overnight temperatures, we're at 61, so above the normal of 57. Normal high today, 82. We will be above that. 103, the record set back in 1934. 751, your sunset. And you can see we're running into the 70s in all valley locations, and we've got 60s to lower 70s up in the mountains. Tehachapi at 66, 72 out of Lake Isabella, and warm for Ridgecrest at 85. Skies remain clear as we go throughout the next several days. The only thing I expect is maybe a few high clouds here and there. Next trough is developing and moving some showers into the northern part of the state. None of that is headed our way. The only influence we'll get out of this is some mountain and desert winds and some cooler temperatures. 68 in Sacramento today, 86 in Fresno. We're looking at 70s down to the south in LA and San Diego, 86 in Las Vegas, and Phoenix below 100 at 97. So here's a look at the Pacific, and you can see other than that area of low pressure right now, that's really all we're tracking, and Futurecast HD keeps it well to the north. And as we go throughout the next several days, we'll watch for another system to develop for the weekend. But what do you see? Yeah, it heads to the north again. The only thing I think we'll see into the weekend, into early next week, is some high clouds. 84 in Bakersfield today, 86 in Delano, 83 out in Maricopa. For the mountains and the Kern River Valley, sunny but also a little breezy, a northwest wind 10 to 15, 68 in Frazier Park, 70 in Tehachapi with 70s to lower 80s into the Kern River Valley, 76 for Lake Isabella. Weldon today sunny, breezy as well with a west wind 10 to 20 and a high of 80 in Mojave. Here's your extended forecast. Tomorrow we'll be back into the 70s through Thursday, and then a little bit of a increase in temperatures for Friday into Saturday. Saturday expect to 85, but then we'll be back into the lower 80s by Sunday. And then for the mountains, you can see keep the breeze around through at least next Friday. Temperatures will be cooler for you, 60s Tuesday through Friday, and then a little bit of a warm-up on Saturday, but then upper 60s will return by Sunday. And then for the Kern River Valley forecast, breezy through Friday. We'll look at upper 60s Tuesday, Wednesday, and then by the weekend, we're near 81 again on Saturday, and then by Sunday, we will start to see another cool down. So overall, not a bad start to the work week. The good news is we're not seeing triple digits just yet, and that puts a smile, I think, on everybody's face. Enjoy the Monday afternoon, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. Now, countries throughout Europe are easing lockdown restrictions, and in Paris and London, some people are going back to work. NBC's Keir Simmons reports from London.
This morning, as most of Europe relaxes the rules, Britain reopening more slowly and ready to reimpose restrictions if necessary. The Queen may not return to public duties, reports say, until a vaccine is found. Buckingham Palace telling NBC News she's taking appropriate advice. Prime Minister Boris Johnson, himself hospitalised by coronavirus, trying to give his country a measure of hope.
We will come back from this devilish illness. We will come back to health and robust health. But for now, we must stay alert, control the virus, and save lives.
Russia's President Putin rocked by the rise of coronavirus. Now more than 10,000 infections there a day. a small event with flowers and a flyover, replacing a much more elaborate celebration to mark 75 years since the end of World War II. In Germany, just days after relaxing the rules, the infection rate rising again and anger building. Minor protests, including far-right groups, led to clashes with police. Scenes repeated in Australia, where 10 people were arrested and police injured. While in Brazil, President Bolsonaro controversially brushing off the risks again. Rio's Christ the Redeemer highlighting hunger among the poor in Brazil, caused by the coronavirus crisis. While Latin America's second largest airline, Colombia's Avianca, filing for bankruptcy. These are anxious days in Asia too. While Disney's theme park reopened in Shanghai, only at 30% capacity to allow for social distancing, this morning another Chinese city, Shulan, is in lockdown. China's infections increasing for a second day, fueling fears of a second wave. In sport, Europe's famous soccer is trying to restart, but without spectators. And here in the UK, another illustration of the challenges that the world will face. Because they think that they may be controlling the virus, they are now imposing a 2-week quarantine for anyone flying in to Britain. Keir Simmons, NBC News, London.
And in addition, Spain started the week with a mixture of reopening businesses and strictly locked down cities as the country tries to balance restarting their economy with avoiding a resurgence in coronavirus cases. Over half of Spain's 47 million people entered the second phase of the country's 4-phase lockdown easing plan this morning. Under the second phase of lockdown, relaxation, outdoor cafes and bar terraces may open at 50% capacity, and up to 10 people will be able to gather together in their homes or outdoors. Spain daily coronavirus death toll fell today to 123, and the health ministry said its lowest level in 7 weeks. A shark attack over the weekend in California kills a well-known surfer in the community. It's been 16 years since Northern California has seen a deadly shark attack. Now the sudden death of the local surfer, Ben Kelly, has devastated the Santa Cruz Beach community where he worked, lived, and surfed. NBC's Gotti Schwartz has more.
It was the first weekend many Californians were allowed back on the beaches. And like a lot of surfers, 26-year-old Ben Kelly was thrilled to hit the water again, paddling out Saturday afternoon like he had done countless times before.
Male with a shark bite, not conscious, breathing.
That attack happening about 100 yards from a beach just south of Santa Cruz.
The lifeguard was flagged down by a citizen that said that there was a shark attack.
The two surfers with Kelly managed to get him to shore, lifeguards rushing in to try to save him.
The lifeguard immediately called for assistance and rendered emergency care.
Kelly made his living designing custom surfboards. Friends say it was his passion. His Instagram motto reading, "You dream it, I'll shape it," and riding the waves was one of his loves, even in an area where sharks are known to roam.
He's one of those guys that, he understood the risks. You just hope that it doesn't happen, but it wasn't anything where he was making a mistake.
Surfers here say they're used to seeing sharks, but add attacks are extremely rare.
Usually they don't bother you. Usually they're just cruising and they're looking for rays.
Authorities are still unsure what kind of shark attacked Kelly, but great white shark sightings have been reported in the area.
It is an inherent risk with surfing or being in the water.
A community now mourning, posting tributes to a fallen surfer and expressing condolences to his family. Some taking small comfort in knowing his last day was spent surfing.
He passed away doing something that he really loved.
The nearby beach, already restricted because of coronavirus, now closed, adding yet another danger for local beachgoers to fear.
That was Gotti Schwartz reporting. Ben Kelly left behind his wife of 3 years. And like we've been bringing you every day here at 17 News at noon, we will now hear from Governor Newsom on the latest developments in regards to reopening the state. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
New efforts, the state of California and our western state pack of governors is advancing. I'll lay out some updates on the amount of PPE we've been able to distribute in the last few weeks, which is foundational in terms of our efforts to begin to meaningfully modify our stay-at-home order and begin to reopen our economy. Update you on the daily numbers and trend lines, and preview a few things coming up later this week. But let me first begin by making a statement reinforcing some of the words I've been saying over the course of the last few weeks. You know, it was just a number of months ago that California was announcing a projected $6 billion budget surplus. I'll remind you, this time last year, that surplus was projected to be over $21.4 billion. We were debating the size of the surplus and how best to manage our budget with that surplus in mind. But just 90 or so days ago, a projected $6 billion budget surplus. We reflected on the fact that this state, over the last 5 years, has enjoyed 3.8% annual GDP growth, substantially outperforming the rest of the nation. In so many ways, in the last 5 or 6 years, we've really become the tentpole of the American economy in terms of job creation, in terms of economic output, not only reflected in those GDP numbers, but the consecutive months of net job growth. We had record low unemployment, record reserves in the state of California, paid off that wall of debt, which become so infamous in the state of California, and saw our bond rating, independent of any assertions by an elected official, our bond rating agencies upgraded the state on 2 occasions in the last year. I say all that, and as I said all of that on multiple occasions, to just reinforce the current status, and that is those numbers are completely flipped. We now are struggling with tens of billions of dollars in budget deficits directly as an impact directly caused because of the impact of this disease, COVID-19. Unemployment has skyrocketed in this state, some $13.1 billion of unemployment claims we have distributed. $13.1 billion in cash has been distributed to people struggling and suffering because of the economic consequences. 4.5 million Californians that have filed for unemployment insurance and PUA, pandemic unemployment assistance, just since March 12th. 4.5 million just since March 12th. $13.1 billion distributed, $3.4 billion just last week. It gives you the magnitude of what's happened in just a short period of time, 90 or so days in this state. Unemployment numbers that, when new numbers come in, will be north of 20%, getting closer to 22, 3, 4, 5%, very, very likely. And so the challenge is enormous. And this challenge is one that's not only presented to us here in the state of California, but it's a challenge that will be felt all across the United States, and for that matter, around the rest of the world. You're seeing numbers come in states large and small, the impact to the general funds of their budgets. States like California that were running some surpluses now running historic deficits and challenges related to unemployment claims, the likes of which they haven't seen since the Great Depression. These are challenging times, and they require a collaborative spirit. They require a level of cooperation that led to conversation with our Western governors and our Western PAC, where we decided it would be best if we go together and advance our needs and put to light and put into writing our hope and expectation of support from the federal government. And today we are putting out jointly governors of Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Colorado, and their respective leadership in their assembly and in their state senate. Some are House of Representatives, depending on the state. But the signature of the Speaker, the leader pro tem of the Senate, not just the Assembly, in each of those states, and the governor, and our Speaker, Anthony Rendon, our pro tem, Tony Atkins, and the minority leader of the Assembly, Republican Marie Waldron, signed similar letter to the federal government, to Nancy Pelosi, to Mitch McConnell, and others, requesting aid in a $1 trillion range. That's the range of support we feel we need as a nation, states, municipals, as well as counties. This is the
All right, we just listened in on Governor Gavin Newsom giving us the latest developments here in the state in regards to the COVID-19 outbreak and the efforts in reopening the state. And you can always watch the rest of his press conference here on our website, KGET.com, even live on Facebook.
This is 17 News with continuing coronavirus coverage.